Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
Hi, welcome to
Thank
Eros
you.
Evolution. So let me introduce my guest, Laurie Handlers. She's a film producer, sex educator, and the author of Sex and Happiness, the Tantric Laws of Intimacy. Through her company, Butterfly Workshops, she offers sexual health and awareness courses, besides leadership and expansion courses for corporations and individuals throughout the world. She hosts a weekly radio show, Sex and Happiness, where she discusses all topics about sex. One of her erotic short stories was featured recently in new Amazon bestseller, Lovers, an erotic collection of short stories and boys. So welcome, Laurie.
Thank you so much, Martha. It's my pleasure to be with you.
I am so impressed with your work. I understand you've been doing this work since 1978. That's a really long time.
Yeah. Yes, I'm very inspired early in life, and I just kept, going. I just kept doing what I love. Wasn't always into the sex aspect, but later that came along. Mostly I was into wanting to change the world and help empower people and transform things.
That's exactly what how I started working on myself and wanting to help people. But I found the topic of sex being the one that I was most drawn to, because there's so much pain and misconceptions around it. So what made you become drawn to the sexuality field?
Well, first of all, I always felt there was more to sex than sex, the way it was presented to me. And I knew there was something bigger about it. And then in the 80s, I think I read an article that was about Margot Anand and what she was doing with people and changing their sexual energy, the way they regarded things. And I said, oh my God, that's what I know to be true. I found that to be so true inside myself. I was like it proved to me that there was something more. And so in the 90s was the first time that I had an opportunity to go to a class, not with her, but with somebody. And I went to it, and it was like I woke up and went, yes, I know this. Yes, I resonated in me. And so I guess that's why I just had to keep pursuing it. And now I know that it's at the basis of everything. It's the way we're created, and it's the energy that creates everything. So if we want to see transformation in the world, it would make sense to work with the root of everything.
Beautiful. Can you explain more about this root of everything, though?
Sure. Well, the energies of creation are masculine and feminine. I mean, it takes a male that has sperm to go into fertilize an egg inside of a woman. So that's a male energy connecting with a female energy that makes babies. However, that's not the only thing. That's what happens in the animal kingdom, but that's not the only thing that humans can do, because humans have a brain that thinks differently from the rest of the animal kingdom, because humans have a cerebral cortex, and they're able to view themselves as well as make babies, view themselves in creating other things. They can see their lives and plan their lives and scheme and strategize and invent things other than simple procreation. The rest of the animal kingdom has to procreate, and they have to do it in a certain time frame, and they have to do it a certain way, and biology determines that way. But human beings are different. Human beings can say yes and no to things, and they can have sex anytime, and they can also choose not to have sex. They can take their energy and create a rocket ship or whatever. You know, they can write a story. So all of that is based on the same energies of creation used for other things. And anybody who doesn't know that just doesn't, isn't self-aware. But once we know that we can harness that sexual energy and we can use it to create anything, then we can use it to create things that transform the world. And we can also use it to prolong our lives and do all kinds of things that people, haven't known about until now.
Can you just tell us briefly how someone can harness that energy to heal themselves or to evolve?
Well, I can talk about it, but I can't. I mean, teaching it takes some time. I mean, it takes something to harness the sexual energy. Basically, what I've been studying and teaching for quite a few years now is how to actually use breath and sound and movement to harness sexual energy instead of only using sexual energy for sex. I've been teaching people how to take that energy and set their intentions and clear out whatever they have that's guilt and shame and blame and different things that distract and have been taught to them about their bodies. And basically to take that beautiful energy of creation and harness it, like contain it, cultivate it, and then make it work for them. So you can take your sexual energy and you can make it work for you in terms of your life enhancement. You can make it help you anti-age. You can make it help you feel happy. You can make it help you get a new job. You can make it help you attract a partner. You can take it and make it help you focus on your studies. Whatever it is that you are wanting, once you understand that you're the creator and the master of your own domain, that you're not just driven by, what do I want to say, addiction or distraction or, things that people are driven by, but you actually can use your sexual energy by yourself and cause it to fuel you and aid you, just kind of like how people drink coffee. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like people drink coffee to give them a jolt in the morning.
Yeah.
But you can use your sexual energy to give you a jolt in the morning. So you can
Yeah.
take that and make it help you focus on what it is you're trying to do, what it is you're trying to create. Anything that you set your mind to. And if you fuel it with sexual energy besides just mental energy, then you have got yourself a very powerful formula.
I totally hear you and I totally agree with you because I have attended classes relating to breath, touch, movement, sound, and moving sexual energy in our bodies to help us to heal and to evolve. So I'm just wondering, a lot of people have this misconception about sexuality and spirituality. What would be your biggest frustration, and what would you say around them? How we can perhaps answer these misconceptions that people have?
So, well, first we should define the misconception. So,
Yeah.
well, part of it I started to touch on there, where I said that human beings actually are designed differently from the rest of the animal kingdom in that we don't have to have sex at a prescribed time. Like we don't go into heat. We don't have one time a year when we have to procreate. We have the choice of procreation at any time. We have a choice of yes or no. We could say yes or no to sex. So one thing is to just understand the powerful force that it plays in our lives and how we can harness it. So that's number one. Two, in terms of sexuality and spirituality, there is no separation between body and mind. So we've been taught, most of us have been taught in a religious study or some kind of religious order that the body is one thing and the mind is something else, that the mind is the only thing important. That's the only thing to value. And in fact, so our bodies have suffered because of that. We abuse our bodies. We put substances into our bodies that are not good for us. We eat terrible food, whatever. I mean, in the West, obesity and disease is rampant. And that's because people don't value their body. The only thing they value is what they think. And so a tremendous frustration for me is that people think it's separate, and it's not. So that's one thing. We have to value both. We have to put that all together, body, mind, and spirit. They all work together. The second thing is that people think that when we talk about sacred sexuality, that it's all about sex, having sex. But in fact, sex is just the entryway. Sexual energy is what's important, and using sexual energy to fuel everything. And then we become in a place where we see that we're not separate from anything, that our cells and atoms are a part of the universe. And the way into seeing that is through the study of sacred sexuality, through becoming at peace and at one with our sexual energy. So it's not pornographic. It's not using sex as an extrapolation or as an objectification. It's not seeing just a body part like breasts. It's different, you see? So those are the frustrations.
Fantastic. So after this break, we'll return and we'll hear more from Laurie Handlers.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on Om Times Radio.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on Om Times Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at Om Times Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. Om Times Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. This is Martha of Eros Evolution on On Times Radio. I have with me Laurie Handlers, who is a film producer, sex educator, and author of the book Sex and Happiness, the Tantric Laws of Intimacy. Laurie Handlers is highly experienced. She's been working with women, men, couples, singles, parents, and teens since 1978 in different ways. She has just told us on this show that our sexuality is something that's different from animals because we actually have a brain in which we don't go into heat, and we actually are able to use this energy in different ways to help ourselves. She also talked about the link between our body and mind, which is seen as separate, but actually there is tremendous value in acknowledging and noticing how body, mind, and spirit works together. Then Laurie Handlers, she also talked about how sacred sexuality is less about sex and more about the sexual energy within us. And when we're at peace and at one with our sexuality, this is when the fun begins. This is when we can actually use it in so many ways in our lives. So, Laurie, did I do a okay summary up there?
Yes, you did a great job. Thank you.
So I really love what you shared because some of these things that you're mentioning, I don't even know them myself. I'm just curious whether there are any other very common misconceptions that you would like to add besides these three.
The common misconceptions. I just think people, I think people are totally confused about their sexuality. I mean, that's just the way it is because there are the powers that be, politically, religiously, that want that no. Let's take away people's pleasure, and then there are, they can be controlled. So if you get people divided within themselves and scared of their bodies, scared of their bodily functions, scared of the most powerful aspect of themselves, then you can control them. And that's what governments have done for centuries, and religions and the hierarchies. So I'm not a political expert. I didn't come on your show actually to talk about my feelings about politics and how that all works. But I'll just say that it has worked to the fulfillment of other people's plans, other people's dreams, other people's schemes. And now it's time for us to own ourselves and to come back into the true knowledge of who we are. And the only way I know to do that is to get connected. So I'm all about getting connected within myself. It doesn't, then I'm connected to everyone in the whole rest of the world.
So one of my big frustrations working in Singapore is that how do I begin? There's so many things going on where there's just so many layers of these misconceptions and suppression of their sexuality that is really very challenging to open that up. So how do you begin in your quest of helping people when there are so many people who are resisting the message that you have to share?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. When I started this, I'm not the first, of course. There were some other people at this before me. When I started teaching Tantra and sacred sexuality, there might have been 50 people in the world at that time who were doing it. Now there's many more people, so there's definitely been openings. And at the time, we were all in competition. I don't know why that was, but there wasn't a way of working together. And now there are ways of working together. There's a worldwide network of people who have come together to work together and to travel around the globe, instructing people and making it known about how necessary this work is, that if we can heal sexual wounding, we can make a difference in the world. We can change the way things go. We can change the way governments are. We can change the way people respond to each other. So I will just put in a plug for ISTA, International School of Temple Arts, and people can find information, including you, Martha, can find information at schooloftemplearts.org. And if you go on that website, you will see there are people from all over the world who are hosting events. There are 3 levels of training. Each training is a 1-week training. I'm one of the facilitators. And we have finally joined together people from New Zealand, Australia, people from the US, people from Canada, people from Germany, Israel, people from wherever. I mean, wherever there are people who are interested, there's an interest. Even South America, we're having trainings now. There are people from Central America. And perhaps you want to be the person in Singapore that sponsors an ISTA training. We could have a conference there, which would gain awareness. And then we can do some classes there. So that's the best shot that I know of, because there's so many of us working together, and it's certainly made my life easier. Yeah.
So I already knew that you were one of the teachers with ISTA, and they do great work and events around the world. And you're right in saying that there is a lot of power in being united. But I'm also curious what you do in your work, butterfly workshops.
Sure. I'd love to. Yes, I'd love to tell you about that. So butterfly workshops, first of all, butterfly workshops, I think you were curious about how I got the name Butterfly Workshop.
Yes.
And so butterfly workshops came from, in Chinese, the butterfly is the symbol of transformation. And I found out about that, I don't know, early in life about that. And it's funny because I consulted a psychic and she said to name my company Eagle Workshops. And I started laughing because the eagle is the symbol of America, of the United States, and of independence. And I didn't want that to be my symbol. And so I found a butterfly expert from the Smithsonian Institution. I'm sorry, there's a dog barking in the background. Just a moment. So, okay, apologize for that distraction. I found the Smithsonian expert on butterflies, and I asked him if the caterpillars could not transform. He said, no, it's in their DNA. They have to become butterflies. They have to transform. And I said, well, they see that they have to transform, but people don't understand. They too have to transform. Lots of people cling to doing the same thing forever and try to keep things the same and live in the past. But in fact, people transform also. They just don't go from caterpillar to butterfly. So they don't know. That's why I named my company that, because transformation is necessary. Transformation cannot be stopped. And what I do is I teach different levels of Tantra. I have a 1-day course and a 3-day course and a 7-day course. And I also have a leadership course. And I teach people transformation through pleasure. So I teach them how to have pleasure in their bodies, how to expand the container of pleasure, how much permission they have for pleasure, how much they can let in, and how to keep expanding that. Excuse me, through all these different layers. And I teach them emotional release techniques. Basically, I would say I teach people how to get clear, how to set clear intentions, and then how to fuel those intentions with their sexual energy. And it's a formula for making love to life. So it's not just making love, but it's making love to life, to everything that comes. How to just keep moving on the greatest and the happiest and the most pleasurable way possible. That's what I teach.
Wow. So here I am. I'm a sexologist and sexuality educator, and it's all about sex. But what you're saying is through your workshops, you're really helping people to open up themselves and to transform in a very deep way so that they can have the best life that they can have.
Yes, absolutely. It's like having an orgasmic life, like life being one big orgasm, and being able to be vibrating. When people have an orgasm, they feel so connected through their molecules to everything.
A really great orgasm feels so good. And if you could have that type of energy coursing through your cells in every moment of every day, then it's like having an orgasmic life. You're making love to life. And it doesn't mean having sex in every moment. No, it means feeling sexy, feeling vibrant, feeling alive, feeling pleasure, and being honest about that pleasure, being honest about how that pleasure moves you. And then it makes a difference in your whole life, in the way you treat people, in the way you treat yourself, in the way you treat the world. Everything. It's involved with everything. So I guess, yeah, the misconception would be that it's just all about sex, sex, sex. It's really about life, life, life.
I'm feeling very moved by what you just shared. So what do you actually love most in your work?
I love my life. I just love my life. I love meeting people and making a difference. That's the bottom line. I love making a difference with people. I love how they make a difference with me. I love that just moved you. And then you say that to me, and then I get moved back. I love that type of connection, the interaction. That's what life is for me. Connecting with people and touching them in such a way that they're moved and inspired to really live fully. To not waste a second on suffering, but to actually move and seek pleasure, and then seek more pleasure, and then share that. So that's what I love the best about life. It's exciting. I get to travel, and I get to meet people everywhere, and just and make a difference. I have a cute story. I just came back from Hawaii, and when I was traveling to Hawaii, I was on a plane and I met a guy sitting near me, and then he said, "What?" And there were other people. Well, I'll tell you more about it when after the break.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Join Elliot Jolish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jolish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram @JoyOfBusiness or Twitter @JoyOfBusiness, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and JoyOfBusiness. Let's change the world with business. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution. This is Martha, your host for Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio. I have with me Laurie Handlers. She has a master's in education, bachelor in psychology and sociology. She is a highly experienced sexuality educator, and her website is butterflyworkshops.com. She has a weekly radio show as well, and it's called Sex and Happiness You can find access to all her work and information, the link to her radio show, and also purchase her books, DVDs, and CDs. So just before the break, Laurie was telling us a cute story about her plane ride. So tell us, Laurie.
Thank you. So sorry about that. So there was a guy on the plane sitting on the same row with me, and there were two other people going to the Hawaii Tantra Festival. So we were talking in the aisle, and he said, what are you doing? And I told him a little bit about what I do and where we were going. And he said, can I come? I'll be free on the weekend. So he attended a few of the things at the Tantra Festival. And then he actually volunteered to drive me for 2 hours to the other side of the island. And I said, why are you doing this? He said, because I would do anything to spend more time with you. Mm-hmm. I would do anything to learn more from you. And then he actually gave me another ride. He came back and got me after my 2 days on the other side of the island and brought me to the airport. He said, I was so excited when you texted me and said that you needed a ride again. He said, because I get to spend another hour with you. And what can I say? I gave him as much information as I could while we were driving. He wouldn't accept any money. I gave him a copy of my book. And I know that man just got started in a whole new path. Like he just found out there's another way to live. He just found out because he sat next to me on an airplane. And I couldn't be happier for him. I couldn't be more excited about it. It's exciting both for him, and it was moving for me to be able to just share with him in a car ride, as much as I could.
Yeah, I'm finding myself tearing up as you share this story. Often we get so badly treated in our work. I personally, I get insulted, I get laughed at and mocked at when I tell people what I do. And sometimes we have that rare moment where people recognize who we are and they value us the way that guy valued you. I would have done exactly the same thing what he did with you, because I would love to be able to spend more time with you. You are such an amazing, experienced teacher. I would love to be able to soak up everything that you know. And sometimes we get that. We get badly treated, and then we forget how precious and how important the work we do is. And we also sometimes, at least for me, forget who I am.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, my wish for you would be that you not forget who you are ever, and that I want to point something out to you. You're in Singapore. I haven't been in Singapore, so I don't know how far sex has gone into the shadow there. But I want you to always remember that when people's sexuality is suppressed the way it has been in many cultures, in many countries, and in many groups and religions, it has to come out some way. So it comes out in the shadow. It comes out in abuse. It comes out in laughter. It comes out in discomfort. So you, by your merely being, your mere existence and saying, I'm a sexologist, I'm an expert in sexuality, and someone laughs or someone makes a snide remark, they make that remark because they have no permission for pleasure. Those are the same people that run home and find porno on the internet, and it becomes an isolated and addictive experience. They don't know how or what way to express themselves, and they certainly don't know what to do when you're staring them in the face. They're like, oh, it's so shocking to them, and it finds its way into the shadow, and they'll find a way to come to you, and you'll see. They'll wake up. There will be people who wake up, and more people in the world are waking up to it. So you just keep standing on your 2 feet, and you just remember that when they're laughing, you are not the problem. You're the person confronted confronting the fact that there might be a problem.
I so appreciate your words because you spoke them exactly like the teacher that you are. A teacher would always go out of their way to lift up another person, and that's what you sensed in me, and that's what you are bringing that forth even on this show. And I'm hoping that listeners out there can sense the intent of Laurie, but also think about how your sexuality has been repressed and how you can bring out your sexual side that has been in the shadows and bring it into the light for yourself. As I come onto this show, Eros Evolution, it is on an international platform, and this is creating opportunities for people throughout the world, including in Asia, by default of the fact that I am in Singapore. And hopefully more and more people will start to hear of such messages around the importance of our sexuality and how it will help us to feel pleasure and really be able to be open to life and have the orgasmic life that Laurie is talking about.
I think it's really what people want and desire in their deepest core, and they don't know. They just don't know how to get it. And there's so many powers that and forces that are trying to keep them from getting to it. And I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing in Singapore. I really am. And as I was saying to you, I have an interest in a project that has to do with China itself. And I was speaking to somebody about it last evening. I can't go into too many details, but I know how much it's needed and necessary in Asia. Listen, I take people to India. I've taken people on tour to India. One of my films is called Tantric Tourists. It's a full-length film about taking Westerners to India. And when I go to India, everyone wants to study with me. And the men come to my classes there, and they come alone, and I go, okay, where are your women? And they say they can't come to class. And I say, why? And they say, because if they come to class, they would be frowned upon. They wouldn't be able to live again without some stigma if they come to class. So you will have to teach us, and we will have to take home to them what you teach. They cannot come here and learn it for themselves. It's too threatening. And, you know, that breaks my heart. So I understand about Asia to a certain extent. I can't say that I understand everything, but I understand what happens. And India is where Tantra supposedly was born, and Indians don't have Tantra. They're not allowed. So I can only imagine what's going on in Singapore.
Yeah, I just have to add that I have a lot of clients from India, and they are just not getting any sex education, just like me growing up, except that that's this worse. So lots of people in India from the land of Tantra and Kama Sutra actually are very much sexually unaware.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's an old story about Mahatma Gandhi, who was the person who set India free, that he was so confused about his own sexuality that he wanted to cover the Kama Sutra temples and make mountains of dirt over them. He was too embarrassed about them. Luckily, he got overruled by some others in parliament, and they wouldn't let him take these sacred monuments and destroy them by covering them over and making them into dirt and, you know, mountains of dirt.
So even one of the most renowned, influential leaders of the world was really not aware about the power of sexuality.
Yes, and was embarrassed by the fact that there were monuments in his own land that had blatant sexuality. I mean, the Kama Sutra temples have everything on them. And, you know, you could see, you know, acts of sexuality that, you know, they'd have to be performers to be able to do the kinds of things that you see on those temples.
Yeah.
And And the temples have a meaning. I mean, they mean that you have to go through all that carnal knowledge. You have to go through all addiction and distraction to get to the inside. And the inside of those temples is clear, pristine, clean, kind of dark, and with very little embellishment. And we as human beings have to go through all the false thinking, all the misconceptions that you spoke about earlier in the show. We have to go through all of that to get to the core inside. And in the inside, things are just wonderful, pleasurable, clear, powerful. And it really isn't just, as I said, sex, sex, sex. It's really life, life, life. But that's what those temples mean. But he was embarrassed by them. He didn't want people to come from other parts of the world and see them because he didn't want to see them himself.
And I suppose in modern day, it is happening in some form, though we don't actually try to cover up these monuments with mud. What we do instead is we ban sex education, and we say we're going to have a more abstinence-based sex education program. And that is covering up our right to life.
So true. Don't even get me started. That's one of my, abstinence is not a form of sex education. It doesn't work. It's not going to happen. People are going to find a way to have sex. No matter who they are, no matter where they are going to procreate. That is the animal instinct. That is the way of survival. But that's so primal. That urge is so primal, and that's not the only thing that there is. But that's going to be, it's going to happen no matter what people do. The problem is when the urge of sexuality goes into the shadow. When it gets expressed through the shadow, then it becomes dangerous.
So we have a break, and we have here with us Laurie Handlers, and after the break I'll ask her more about how someone can get started about sexuality and spirituality. So stay with us.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into Om Times Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Welcome back. This is Martha of Eros Evolution. I have with me Laurie Handlers, and she's an experienced sexuality educator who has taught all over the world whenever she's invited and with places that she seeks to visit. So she's taught in US, in England, Mexico, and we know India, Jamaica, and soon Canada. She works with people on Skype as well as teleconference and phone. So Laurie is located in Phoenix, Arizona. However, you can definitely reach out to her through her website, butterflyworkshops.com. That's butterflyworkshops.com. She also has another site called asklauriehandlers.com. And remember, she has a radio show that is weekly. It's called Sex and Happiness, which you can find also through her website. So Laurie, before the break, I was saying that we've explored quite a number of things on this show today. We talked about the link between sexuality and spirituality, some of the common myths and misconceptions around sex and sexuality. And I'm just curious, when people are hearing this show and now getting inspired, how exactly can they get started?
Well, they can. There's a lot of ways. There's many ways that they can start. I'm just trying to think. They can get a good book on sacred sexuality. They could start with my book, of course, Sex and Happiness, which is both the name of my book and the name of my radio show. I suggest that I have so many radio shows in the can. I've been broadcasting since 2006. So I had a show prior to Sex and Happiness. My show was called Tantra Cafe, and I have all of those shows listed and archived on my website, Butterfly Workshops. And also they can go to webtalkradio.net or iTunes and they can find my show. There's tons of topics about sex. It's a really good way to get started. They can just do it with their iPod or their telephone. The other thing I would suggest is they can get in touch with me. On my website, there are some teleseminars that they can just pay a minor fee and then get started taking some seminars for themselves. They can certainly get in touch with me, and have a session on Skype or what have you. There's so many ways. And if they can't find me, they can find you. They can find many other teachers. I would tell them that they should really feel their way into finding a teacher, that they should only go with a teacher who they resonate with. And oh, by the way, there's another misconception, and that is that in order to practice Tantra, you need a partner. You do not. You do not need a partner to practice Tantra. You can practice Tantra by yourself, and you should practice Tantra by yourself if you don't have a partner. And you will most likely draw in a different partner from how you would draw if you hadn't practiced Tantra. I'll just say that. And also, sometimes people go and have sessions with people called dakas and dakinis, and they feel... I don't think they have to do that. I get worried that they think that they have to have someone to work with. So it's like they give up their power to being with someone else. And I don't think they have to do that. So I'm glad I had a chance to say that. But they can start by finding a practitioner that they can work with. They can certainly find classes online. Again, in the beginning, I talked about ISTA, International School of Temple Arts. Yeah. They can fly to somewhere in the world where there's a conference or where there's a level 1, level 2, or level 3 happening. The level 1s are happening all over the globe. And I would say that's a great place to start. And then they could come in the United States, they could take my 1-day bliss course. If they're too afraid to get started for a week, they could get started for a day. They could take my bliss course. And by the way, I have a video of my bliss course. They could just order that. If there's somewhere where they can't get to one day, they could order a copy. So there's so many, these days, there's so many books you can get. There's so many things you can order. There's so many radio shows. There's a lot of ways they can start to learn, either on their own in the privacy of their own home, or they can come out to a class or a conference or a larger scale training.
Fantastic. I'd like to add to what you said about not needing to learn about their sexuality or Tantra, thinking that they need to have a partner. It's just like how, as a sexologist, we talk about learning about your bodies through masturbation. If you can have pleasure in solo sex, then you're more likely to be able to have great sex with a partner. So the more you know about yourself, the more you are able to play with the sexual energies and be comfortable with the sexual energies within yourself, then you can be masterful when you're with someone.
Exactly. Very true. Very, very true.
I knew about your other show, Tantra Cafe. I came across it when I was starting to be a sexologist. I just didn't know that you were the one who was hosting them, and I realized that you did 150 shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was there. It was a good show, and it was certainly fun to do. But I got bored. Like I felt I got bored with just talking about Tantra every week. So then I decided to expand and to open up to the whole field of sex and happiness. And so that broadened the field, and I learned so much more from interviewing all kinds of people, both about their own sexual practices, about their teachings, about their books. And if it's and I've so the field really opened up for me when I changed from Tantra Cafe to sex and happiness. I expanded so much more from changing. So I retired that show, I don't know, quite a few years ago. I've been in Phoenix for 6 years, so maybe 5 years ago, I retired that show, and I changed to sex and happiness, and I'm sexier and happier as a result.
You are. I really didn't know you so much before this show, and I remember coming across your video of you in this bathtub, and I was just so impressed by your courage and, of course, vulnerability in being in the bathtub and talking about sexuality and the importance, I believe, of pleasure. I think that's what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And
the media. I was talking about the media also, images of women.
how's the response to the videos that you put out?
They're good. There are quite thousands of hits on them. I mean, of course, you can never have enough, but there are thousands of hits on them, and I love doing that bathtub video. I had so much fun. I remember at the end, I go underwater under all the bubbles.
Yeah, I remember that.
I have a lot of fun. I mean, hopefully you can see that I have a lot of fun in everything that I do, and I wouldn't do it if I wasn't turned on and having fun. I wouldn't do it. I'd do something else.
Yeah, that's so important, because our joy and pleasure and fun that we have in our work shines through, and this inspires the people who we work with. I'm just curious, how have you personally grown from offering these courses on sex and sexuality? I mean, sex and spirituality. Because as a teacher, it's like people always look at us as all knowing, but we also grow a lot from offering courses. So what would be yours?
Well, I feel like I'm open to almost anything. I wasn't. I used to be very judgmental and opinionated, and I thought my way was the right way and all this. And now I don't care about all that. I guess I've lost my ego, and I've grown in possibility. Anything is possible. I've seen so much, I've heard so much, and I've really opened myself to all there is. And I think if I were to say that Tantra has any goal, it's to be able to be open to all there is. So I'm pretty open. I'm really open, and I'm so appreciative. Like I just walk through life appreciating every moment. Whether it's a ride from the airport or, a great piece of chocolate. Whatever it is, I'm excited and happy.
So just tell us what's next for you, your future plans, goals.
Well, I'm working on a film. I love film, so I'm working on a film right now. I'm working on a couple of scripts for films, and I'm approaching the professional sports leagues in the United States because they have a tremendous problem with sexual energy. And the Super Bowl is in Arizona this week. And last night I went to a pre-kickoff party and I met a few professional athletes. And I plan to be, I don't want to say stalking, but I think stalking in the positive sense. I'm going to be stalking the National Football League and the National Basketball Association in the United States to work with the players who cannot manage their testosterone off the court.
Mm.
So they haven't hired me yet, but I'm not taking no for an answer. So that's what my plans are.
Mm. Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you. It's tremendous. If you can help these people, then it changed their lives and hopefully be able to bring your work to a higher level.
Well, they have no solution. And the players I talked to last night were very famous, two very famous men. Anyway, Martha, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on this show. I really believe that we got a lot of value from speaking with you. So tune in to Eros Evolution every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. The next week, I have another guest. Her name is Diana Bonwick, and she's in Australia. She'll be talking about the way we can use sexuality to manifest money. So tune in to Eros Evolution.